It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Yes, we do it again. A walk-off. The Mets are red hot. They've won 8 in a row edition of Rico Brogna. Good evening, good morning. How you feeling? Are you pinching yourself? Are you trying to figure out if this is some weird, wacky dream that we were all having? The New York Mets win again. And I don't know if I'm alone on this. I knew the entire night they were never going to lose. I don't know why. I can't even explain that because most times there's a sense of negativity that I have. But early in the game, when Mark Vientos went deep to start it, I had a confidence they weren't going to lose. Even when Elly De La Cruz tied the game up in the 4th inning, I still had a sense they weren't going to lose. When they went up in the 6th inning, I really was pretty certain they weren't going to lose. And even when, shockingly, DJ Friedel hit that bomb of a 2-run home run, I still didn't think they would lose. The game goes to the 10th inning with Jose Butto falling behind Ty France. I don't know why. I didn't think they were going to lose. And that rare bit of positivity paid off as Mark Vientos beat the crap out of a baseball after former Met Justin Wilson battled him, and Vientos destroyed one into the beautiful Queens night. And this Met team continues to win and win and win and win. And like most of these wins during the course of the 8-game winning streak, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't flawless. There were parts of this game in which the offense completely disappeared. Brandon Williamson came in and said, I'm going to be Sandy Koufax for about 5 innings. But they got the big hits when they needed to. They continue to get utterly brilliant relief work from Reed Garrett, who's returned his season around, to Edwin Diaz, who's a different pitcher since the Grand Slam game, and Jose Butto. I like Big Butto, and I cannot lie. It is another tremendous Met victory. Unfortunately, the Atlanta Braves went back to their winning ways, so the Mets are still tied for the 3rd wild card spot. But man, like, it's one of those nights, and I was not in the building at Citi Field on this Friday night. I'll be there on Saturday, but I wasn't there Friday. I actually started the game a little bit late on DVR, but watching the game on television, you could feel that electricity. You can feel that party-like atmosphere that's been at Citi Field ever since they got home. And you start to look around and you start to wonder and you start to say, oh my God, is this really going to happen? Now, they have a lot of work to do. You know, they've won now 8 in a row, and it feels like they still have a lot of work to do because they do. Despite winning 8 in a row, they haven't gained that much ground on Atlanta, still being tied with them, though they have gained significant ground on the Arizona Diamondbacks, who they're now 1 game behind in the loss column. So there is a long way to go. And when you win games like this and you put streaks like this together, you know, you want to enjoy what's happening around you, but you can't get cocky and assume, wow, this season is special. We're going to win the whole damn thing. This team can easily miss the playoffs. But right now, in this moment, man, is this fun to watch. Has this not been one of the great, enjoyable, wacky regular seasons we've ever seen? Hoff tweeted that earlier in the night. He says, this is the most fun regular season I've seen. Now, look, if they don't make the playoffs, it ain't the most fun regular season I've seen because it will end in some kind of horribly bad way or disappointing way if you don't want to say it's horribly bad. But this has been an incredible reality show. Now, as far as this game is concerned, let's start off with the fact that Mark Vientos, from the moment he was given the little itsy-bitsy opportunity he was given during that St. Louis series, when he was called up and he hit the game-winning home run, the walk-off home run on that Sunday afternoon against the Cardinals, since the moment the Mets gave him the sliver of an opportunity, he has put together an incredible first real season as a major leaguer. I know he's not a rookie, but this is his first real extended opportunity. He hits 2 more home runs in this game. He has 24 home runs. He's got an outside shot to hit 30, and he didn't even play the first month plus of the season. But what a great tone setter by Mark Vientos after Lindor blooped that single to keep his on-base streak going. And good thing he did, because the rest of his offensive game was a very, very quiet night. But he hits that 2-run home run, Vientos does, off Fernando Cruz, because for some reason, David Bell and other managers like to play this game of here's an opener, and then we'll go to our bulk guy right after that. Well, their bulk guy went out and basically dominated for 5 innings, but was in a 2-0 hole because of the 2-run home run given up by the opener. The Met offense went very, very quiet after that, but Sean Manaea, and I know his final line isn't going to be great, 6 2/3 innings, 4 runs, but I thought we continued to see the best of Sean Manaea. Pitched a dominant first inning, got through the second, dominant third inning. He made the one mistake to Ellie De La Cruz. I think it was a sweeper that he just hung up there. And De La Cruz pummeled it for the 2-run home run. But think about how he responded to that 2-run home run. He didn't let the cave kind of, not the cave in, the walls cave in, or the ceiling cave in, whatever the freaking saying is. He went out and retired the next 7 guys in a row. I think where Manaea ran into his trouble, and I don't blame Carlos Mendoza for this. I don't. But let's walk through what happened here. He ran out of gas. His pitch count got up into the 90s. He issued the big walk to Spencer Steer. He did strike out Ty France. And I think that Mendy looked at Friedel and said, you know what? It's a lefty. Manaea's gotten him out twice in this game. This is his last batter. If he gets him out, fantastic. He got through the 7th inning, another 7-inning performance. If he gives up a base hit, and remember, at the time, the Mets are up by 2 runs with a runner on second and 2 outs. If he gives up a base hit, all right, you still have the lead. We'll go to Reed Garrett. We'll move on. But it really turned out to be 1 batter too long. And I admit it, even though it didn't work out, I didn't disagree with Mendy at the time. I understood pushing Sean Manaea. And I think it was mostly because of the lefty-lefty matchup and the fact that even though Manaea was showing signs of tiring, he hadn't allowed a base hit since the Ellie De La Cruz home run. He issued the walk. He hit a batter a few innings earlier, but he was continuing to find a way to make the big pitch. So I didn't have an issue with it, but clearly he ran out of gas. Again, I think he left the sweeper up, and TJ hit it hard, and you knew it off the bat. It was getting out. And it was disappointing. You have a 2-0 lead, and then it's gone. You have a 4-2 lead, and then it's gone. But as long as they weren't giving up the lead, it's probably the winning streak. It's probably the muscles of 7 in a row, now 8 in a row. But I really wasn't that worried, which is so odd for me. Most of the time I admit on these Ricos, I thought we were going to lose here. I thought we were going to lose there. Never felt that way. But overall, I thought a really good performance by Manaea. He gives up only 3 hits in this game, the 2 home runs that we talked about, being in 1 batter too long. So the final line's not nice to him, but he had 9 more strikeouts. His command, for the most part, was pretty good outside of the 2 walks. And it was another encouraging performance by Sean Manaea. What was really encouraging, though, was Reed Garrett. I think we may have to put him back in the circle. Reed Garrett started this season off by just forcing his way into the circle of trust. I think it was a game against Atlanta earlier in the season where he came in and got like 8 or 9 outs and kept them in the game to allow them to come back. And then he put together a really good month where he was unhittable, where I was pondering even getting the Reed Garrett jersey. This could be Jabba Chamberlain 2.0 for the Mets. And then he started to struggle, really capped off by giving up that grand slam to Patrick Bailey against the Giants in late May, Memorial Day weekend. He had a stint on the injured list. He comes back. He's still a little shaky, but his last few performances, his command has been top-notch. He's reminded you of the guy that got off to the great start. He's throwing his slider for strikes. He's getting ahead of the count, and then that splitter is impossible to hit. Reed Garrett faces 4 batters, gets all of them out, strikes out 3. I think I'm ready to put him back in the circle. Here's the thing about September pennant race baseball. The circle of trust, violent place. You come into the circle, and then you get thrown out of the circle. Little things can get you in and get you out. But right now, the Mets circle of trust in the bullpen, it's expanding by the day. Jose Budo was about to leave the circle of trust. He remained in it with what he did in the 10th inning of this game. But great performance by Reed Garrett. Great performance by Edwin Diaz. How about Edwin Diaz? Edwin Diaz blows the game in Arizona. Remember the last time the Mets lost? Remember that game? Remember the feelings after that game? We're dead. It's over. This sucks. Season's over. I hate you, Edwin Diaz. All that. All those crazy emotions that we had a week and a half ago. Edwin Diaz, since that game, has responded in not just a way of he's bouncing back. He's responded by pitching his best baseball of the year and reminding you of the guy from 2022, which even when he was pitching well earlier this season, there was still something off about Edwin Diaz. His velocity was a little bit down. Like he didn't have that kind of same dominance that he had earlier in the season. But listen to these lines, these performances. Since the blown save against Arizona, he pitches the very next day, 1-2-3 inning, 2 strikeouts. Gets a save, protects a 1-run lead against the Diamondbacks. It probably his most impressive outing, and it happened the next day. He closes out the White Sox game the day after that, third straight day he pitched, scoreless inning, 2 strikeouts, 1-2-3 inning. All right, so 6 in a row, 6 perfect since, or 2 perfect, 6 up, 6 down, since the blown save. Then he comes out and pitches the finale against the White Sox in that series, and he does the same thing. 1-2-3 inning, strikes out the side. So far, in the first 3 outings after the blown save, 3 perfect innings with 7 strikeouts, 7 of the 9 outs coming on strikeouts. He comes into the Boston game. Mets blew the game open late, wasn't a save situation, other than a walk, again, perfect. And then what he does in this game, in which he strikes out the side. So let's do the math together. Since the blown save, 5 innings, 0 hits, 12 strikeouts, and 1 walk. How about that? I mean, that is remarkable, and that is amazing because it's so necessary and so needed. So the response that Edwin Diaz has shown since that game in Arizona, and really starting with the game after, by protecting a 1-run lead and dominating the way he did, that was the real one. But he's followed it up, and certainly this game tonight against Cincinnati, or last night against Cincinnati, I mean, it's a tie game in the 9th inning, and you're facing the heart of the order. It's not like you're facing nobodies. You're facing De La Cruz, Stevenson, and Spencer Steer, 3 of their better hitters. And he dominates, and he strikes out the side. And I've noticed, and I can't say this has been every performance since then, but it feels like the first pitch he throws is a pitch that's way out of the strike zone that probably intimidates the batter. That's what happened to Ellie De La Cruz in this game. That first pitch wasn't even close. It was a Bob Uecker just a bit up high. So perfection from Edwin Diaz. Jose Budo. I like Big Budo, and I cannot lie. When you come into that 10th inning, tie game, runner on second, nobody out, tricky spot. Tricky spot, especially when you fall behind Ty France. But he gets him to ground out. He gets TJ to pop up, TJ Friedel to pop up. And then what a really good defensive play by Francisco Lindor when Espinal hit the slow roller shortstop. So even on a night where Lindor's offense was not his best, he certainly responded with some very, very good defense. Speaking of Lindor, I don't want to pick on him. 2 on, 1 out in the 5th inning, grounds into a double play, strikes out, gets blown away in the 7th inning, comes up in a big spot in the 9th with a runner on first, nobody out, first pitch, pop up the second. It was not his best offensive day. That's okay. They won anyway. And he made a really key defensive play like we talked about in the bottom of the 10th inning. I mean, they didn't get a lot of offense in this game. You know, Pete Alonso had another frustrating night. He strikes out in the 1st inning, no big deal. It was right after the Vientos home run. But he came up in a big spot in the 7th, right after Cincinnati tied the game, 2 on, 2 out. They're putting together that 2-out rally, and he grounds out weakly to shortstop. And I noticed this the other night. I can't say I'm surprised, but he is starting to hear some boos. I wouldn't boo anybody with the vibes these high right now. I mean, I'm not a booer to begin with, but the way this team is playing and the way they're winning every single night, I don't think anybody, I wouldn't touch that at all. But it's funny going back to Pete's performance. He actually was a part of one of the most significant plays in this game. And one of those plays It was luck, I admit, and sometimes baseball's about luck. But one of those lucky moments that make you say, wow, maybe it is all breaking right for us. You go back to the sixth inning. It's still tied 2-2. There are 2 outs and nobody on. He's facing Brandon Williamson, who the Mets have not been able to hit. And Pete, behind in the count, to his credit, hits that fly ball to right field that Jake Fraley catches. Like, if this was the NFL, they would have ruled it a catch. He dives, he takes 3 steps, he dives on the ground, he still has possession. And then even after he dove, I don't know, I couldn't even tell what knocked the ball out, but something knocked the ball out. Pete was so confused, he was stopping at first base, but then eventually realizes, holy crap, the ball's loose. Let me get to second. And he gets to second base. That was such a huge play. And while that's luck, Fraley not holding on to that is luck. And the Mets got a break. Here's the thing about baseball when you get lucky. It doesn't mean a damn thing if you don't take advantage of it. That could have easily been just a weird play in the sixth inning. No harm, no foul. But instead, you saw a changing of events. You saw Jose Iglesias pinch hit for Jesse Winker. David Bell says, oh, let me go righty against Iglesias. I know Iglesias has done better against lefties, but that wasn't going to make a damn difference. And Iglesias comes through like he always seems to with runners in scoring position with the RBI single. So right then and there, that lucky break, and it was a lucky break by the Mets, they take advantage of immediately with Iglesias stroking the RBI single and going to second on the throw. And then right after that, J.D. Martinez comes through with an RBI single. So the Mets turn a lucky break, very lucky break, into 2 runs because of their clutch hitting and because of their opportunistic nature of taking advantage of it. Unfortunately, Harrison Bader struck out with guys on base. So that sequence was very weird too. Marte gets a hit right after. They're up by 2. They have first and third 2 out, and Bader pinch hits for McNeil. And Gary and Ron don't say, it's like, oh yeah, Bader's pinch hitting. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why is Harrison Bader pinch hitting? And then you remember, an inning earlier, he was hit by a pitch. And that always seems to happen when someone gets hit by a pitch and you're not sure if they're okay. They'll stay in the game 80% of the time, but keep an eye on what happens an inning later or 2 innings later. And in this case, Bader pinch hitting was not, hey, let's get our defense improved, or hey, I like the matchup better. There was no way you were pinch hitting for Jeff McNeil with Harrison Bader with 2 on 2 out against the righty. And that was a bad break because Bader has been kind of lost offensively. He struck out in a big spot. Who knows what Jeff McNeil does? He's clearly been a different hitter in the second half of the year. So McNeil has a contusion of his wrist, and all that means is he has a bruise, and he'll go for testing tomorrow. So keep your fingers crossed. Now, the Mets have so much depth right now and so many guys contributing that if they ever did lose Jeff McNeil for any period of time, it's obvious what they would do. Jose Iglesias would play every day. He plays what seems like half the time right now. Something happens to McNeil, you're looking at Jose Iglesias all the time. And Iglesias, even when he appears to be cooling off like he has recently, he can come up with a monstrous base hit like he did in the 6th inning to give them the lead. Now, I hope Jeff's okay, because even though the Mets have the depth to overcome that, it's not ideal, especially with the way he's played in the second half. But the Met offense struggled after that. We talked about the opportunity they had in the 7th inning. Pete grounded out to shortstop. They got blown away in the 8th inning. They couldn't figure it out against Alexis Diaz despite the hit batsman, which turned into an opportunistic time with Tyrone Taylor stealing second base. Lindor and Nimmo couldn't take advantage of it. And then you get to that battle in the 10th inning. And then you get to former Met Justin Wilson against Mark Vientos and that battle that they had. And silly me, I'm just hoping for a fly ball to right field where you could advance Brandon Nimmo to third. And instead, Mark Vientos delivers his 3rd hit of the game, his 2nd home run of the game, 4 RBIs. He is now sitting with 24 home runs and 62 RBIs, and they wouldn't give him a chance to play in the first month of the season. I'm still like, there's a small part of me that's still bitter about that. that's bitter that we had to watch so much of DJ Stewart before JD Martinez was ready because they didn't want to give Vientos the opportunity. But you never know. Maybe Vientos being in jail in AAA, maybe in a weird way that benefited him. And somehow that led to this incredible run he's been on where if you want to hit him second or you want to hit him third, fine either way. But the one thing Mark Vientos is proving and continuing to prove is that he better hit towards the top of the order. He's earned that. He's good enough to do it. And right now, when you ask yourself the question, who are the New York Mets' best hitters? Mark Vientos is one of those answers. Because how damn good has he been? Great win. Great win. Great win. Now they got to keep winning. No big deal. 8 in a row. Make it 9 in a row on Saturday. Make it 10 in a row on Sunday and keep it rolling. Now, we will have another Rico Brogna after this series is over, and I do promise a Rico analyzing some of the best offensive seasons in the history of the New York Mets out of the request of team president David Stearns. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, subscribing, watching, enjoying, hating another happy edition, a walk-off edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.